Hello everyone and welcome to today's episode of the Osasu Show. There has been a lot of discussions about the 2017 appropriation bill, which was recently passed by the National Assembly. Any moment from now, it will be taken to the Vice President, who also doubles as the acting President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, to assent on this bill. Today we have two young individuals who are data analysts who will be discussing this bill with us in more details. Don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back on the Osasu Show. Welcome back to the Osasu Show. With me today is Mr. Seun Onigbinde, who is a Nigerian entrepreneur, a data analyst, and the co-founder of Budget, a Nigeria civic startup. Thank you for joining us in today's program.
It's nice being here, Osasu.
Thank you so much. My first question to you is, does the National Assembly, do legislators have the right to appropriate items in the budget?
Yeah, by the Nigerian Constitution, the right for appropriation is for the National Assembly. And every single item you see in the budget should be geared towards a key goal of government. The key goal of government, I will agree, is that we want to get out of recession. I want to make sure that people have jobs and have opportunities. And that's every single line in the budget should reflect that.
But that's what this government preach, right? A zero-based budgeting.
Yeah.
Is that the correct terminology?
Yeah.
Zero-based budgeting, meaning that you have to
justify
each expense. So that's clearly not what they're doing according to budget.
If they're doing a zero-based budget, maybe they're just scratching the bottom of the barrel. They've not started yet. Because if there's zero-based budget, that means the scrutiny is not strong enough. And I think if the executive makes sure that the budget is well detailed, well presented also on time, then we can get the National Assembly to do its job also on time. But also the National Assembly also has crafted a notorious kind of label for itself, that once in a while the budget is there, you start hearing things like pardon, illegal insertion, you start hearing that people are putting more projects as to do with the constituency. The latest one we are hearing now is that some members of the Senate Committee on Works put items that has to do with even local government roads.
In the budget, that's actually leading to my second question. So, for example, in this budget, we found out that capital provisions for some strategic projects spread across the country were moved to some unspecified projects that are under the control of state and local governments, like you just said. Is that legal?
Yeah, it's not legal. It's illegal if you're going to do that, and that's why the Constitution, the executive has two comforts. And two comforts, one, the power of assent is within the president. Well, we can debate that because the
Senate can override that with two-thirds of the...
National Assembly can override it, so we can debate that. But the second part is the power of execution also lies with the executive. So you can decide to put whatever you like in the budget.
And they wouldn't release exactly.
Yeah, and that is not a crime. What becomes a crime is if you fund what is not in the budget. That is when you commit a crime. And the other side is also there has to be an informal conversation between the executive and the legislature on the budget. This is the biggest vehicle for you to give resources to the people, to develop a society. We should not leave it to chance.
But this all boils down to power play at the end of the day. It's all politics.
Yeah, the budget sometimes becomes a bargaining tool, and you can't...
Sometimes?
Yeah, maybe all the time. maybe I'm just being conservative about it. But all the time, it's always a bargaining tool. It's always about what it is in for us.
It's quite unfortunate. So what can the masses do to ensure accountability?
For me, I think the Nigerian citizens need to wake up. And that's what the core of the work we do. To find every means to distribute the budget to them. The Nigerian citizens need to stand up and demand that public resources should be efficiently spent for them.
But the 2017 budget is historic in the sense that this is the first budget that 30% of the 30% of the budget is allocated to capital expenditure.
No, I think it was in the early days of Jonathan, they were clocking up to 30%. But like we all know, the budget is a wishful statement sometimes. The problem has always been the capital, and I feel we should be even more focused. But you have to give the comment. You have to commend the government for even being bold in these times of recession. But also, it's coming at a cost. It's coming as a cost of debt.
Because how are we even funding the deficit? That's another thing. Because last year, in the 2016 budget, we weren't able to fund our deficit, were we?
We were not.
Entire deficit.
We can't fund our entire deficit. And one of the key things we're seeing now is that the CBN is giving a lot of overdraft. I think this administration has done well by trying to keep the Niger Delta still, and oil production has ramped up again. So I think that's where we might find little springs.
Well, we had a lot of talks about diversification from 2015 to 2016. Now we're in 2017. We're still talking about dependency on oil.
Yeah, we are, because we don't want to do the hard stuff. Oil is less than 15% of Nigeria's GDP. Agriculture is the bulk. But you have a GDP, close to 60% of a GDP, that is untaxed. So we diversify as an economy. The two problems we have is our exports revenues is not diversified, because 90 to 96% is tied to oil receipts. Yeah. Then our public revenues is not diversified. So every time you see a slump in the oil market, everything just goes down. And so we need to start thinking, where exactly is Nigeria going to sell to the world? But what we're doing right now is we're borrowing, and we keep borrowing.
To pay salaries.
To pay salaries, or we keep printing to pay salaries. It's more like kicking the can down the road, because by next year now, everybody's distracted again, and all these old
politics.
It goes
but
down.
That brings me to the question of consistency. Do you believe that the political term or the presidential term should be extended? Some leaders here in Nigeria would argue that they just do not have enough time. 4 years isn't enough. And you just mentioned consistency as a key denominator in diversification, the success of diversification. Do you believe 4 years is enough, or should we extend the term?
Personally, I don't think 4 years is enough. I'm beginning to say my own personal views here. A governor comes, he spends close to 3 billion to buy cars. He spends another 1 billion naira to provide accommodations for his members of the State House of Assembly. And you do that you are going to make all the traditional rulers happy. He's going to take some funds to be able to pay back whatever he has taken funds to do the campaign. So before you know it, almost 6 billion naira has left the treasury. And you're going to do this in every 4 years. So I'm beginning to look at all of the cost of our turnover. Can we just find that maybe, but the problem has always been the quality, the process, our political process, the quality of our political process. Does it throw up the kind of candidates that we can really be certain that when we give them 6-year to 12-year mandate, they are really going to deliver the goods? Partisan.
Lastly, you chaired the campaign Open NAS.
Yeah.
I personally want to congratulate you for that. This is the first time in the history of Nigeria that the National Assembly has released its budget to the public. And this was due to this gentleman right here.
Oh my God, everyone.
To this gentleman right here who led the campaign via his organization, which he co-founded, called Budget. So now you've seen the budget. Are you satisfied? Or do you have more questions?
Yes, there's going to be a lot of questions, but maybe we should just think, I really commend, and I know how difficult it is to open that budget, and I really commend Senator Bukola Saraki and Tugara for taking that bold step, because a lot of people don't want that budget out there. Who are they?
We've seen the frivolous items in the executive budget, but we haven't seen that in specifically the National Assembly.
It's coming. We looked at it already. It's coming. And we're having an event very soon where we're going to get citizens to look at it by themselves. Maybe it's not budget again. Maybe we're too subjective. Being an active citizen or making democracy work, it's not a function of just voting. That's the beginning of the process. In fact, if we understand the value of our vote, we will not just stop at voting. We will understand.
How can my viewers watching, how can they get more involved in budget?
So you can follow us on social media, be Budget NG. We have presence in 20 states now. So if you engage us, reach out to us via our platform. Your budget, just Google budget or yourbudget.com. Or search budget online. and get across us, we can connect you with someone who is an officer in each state, and they can engage you and support you. We can also provide you the budget in your own states, and you can track it on our platform. So we also want people, because we feel the way to start is people seeing government money. People say government money. There's nothing like government money. It's public money. Yeah. So people seeing public money as their own and take steps to track the implementation of those funds. And that's the only way we can get Nigeria to work and public resources to be efficient for the people.
Very lastly, I read that budget got a $3 million funding from, was it the World Bank?
The Gates Foundation.
The Gates Foundation.
And the Media Network.
Okay, so who oversees how that spending and allocation and implementation is
done? You call that money huge. We don't have that money. But it's a grant, meaning and it's a very span of like 4 years. Okay. So gradually we need to send reports, and it's a whole ton of report and a ton of reporting. And I think more of the focus for that was for us to be an institution, and the second focus was for the states, was more focused at the states. How do we get state level data? A lot of people want to do investments in states in Nigeria, but there is hardly any data for that. So it's more of like digging into the state, the fiscal, socioeconomic, health, education data.
So actually going out to the streets and doing your own data gathering.
Yeah, maybe anything one that exists again, bringing all of them together and build a platform.
And that's very cost intensive?
Yeah, and build a platform that has state level, credible state level data. And that's what we're trying to do. It's like a 4-year project, so we'll possibly see maybe the first beta version of the platform maybe later in the year, third quarter of the year.
Mr. Chair, congratulations on all your good work. So we'll take a break now, and when we return, we'll be talking to Hamzat Lawal, who is the CEO of Connected Development Program Code. Don't go anywhere.
Some say Africa's golden era is gone. A time when great African kings and queens built their dreams into empires, stretching across the continent and beyond. But we say a new era is upon us. A new set of African kings and queens are on the rise. Driven by the same wealth of character as the kings and queens before them. Building new empires of enterprise with the right partnership. So rise up wherever you are, new kings and queens of Africa. Embrace your full potential and be proud of your heritage. Heritage Bank, your timeless wealth partner.
Mr. Hamza Lawal, Chief Executive of Code Connected Development and co-founder of Follow the Money. Welcome to today's program.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So we have seen several discussions and heard several discussions of the 2017 appropriation bill, aka the 2017 budget, which was just passed by the National Assembly. Yet we see little to no reflection of the plight of the IDPs, the internally displaced persons. Have you been able to review the budget, and what are your thoughts on the appropriation for the care of the internally displaced people?
Oh yes, I've been able to review the budget, and so again, as much as we're excited and the entire country is talking about the 2017 budget, no one is emphasizing on how we got to the 2017 budget. The 2016 budget, we've not really even seen over 50% of its implementation. There was a 10 billion naira for IDPs captured in the 2016 budget, but no one has been able to tell us if these funds were actually released and who was it released to.
Were you able to follow that money?
Well, we got to a point where we reached out to the National Assembly and said, well, there's a 10 billion captured in the 2016 budget. Mm-hmm. Who are you releasing it to? And if it's been released, can we have details of the beneficiary of these funds and how impactful this taxpayer money it's used for the people in the IDPs? But up till now, no one has provided this information. And on the 2017 budget, there's no specific that looks at the IDP or the plight of the IDP. But then again, let's move from the 2017 budget and look at international aid that's going to the IDP. From our assessment, over 50 billion for the past 3 years have gone into the Northeast. And then streamlining these funds to Borno alone. There's so much money that has gone to Borno from USAID, from the EU, from the World Bank, from our federal government, and even from the state government. But then visiting different IDP camps and other settlements, we can't really see the effects of this funds.
So what's going on?
And just recently, there's over 400 million that was committed in the Oslo conference. And then this is worrisome to us, beyond just the 2017 budget, the 2016 budget implementation, and all the whole money going to the IDPs and the northeastern region. There's not much that is going on. But again, we're optimistic. We're optimistic because we now have a citizen-led grassroots movement on ifollowthemoney.org. So we've now recruited a lot of Nigerian citizens at this grassroots level who are sending real-time information.
Give us an example of a situation where Follow the Money was able to uncover maybe money allocated by government that wasn't implemented properly, either in the local government level or in the state government level.
So I would give you an example of Niger State. That was in 2015 where over 30 children had died, which was reported. So what we did at that point was to visit the community and ascertain what was actually the level of devastation, speaking to mothers who have lost their children, community leaders and other people living in this community. And we found out that there have been lead contamination due to artisanal mining. Some people will call it illegal mining, but we would say it's unregulated mining because, again, you don't have skilled manpower and representative of the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development to regulate their activity. And we all know it's due to poverty that allows family to go and look for alternative source of livelihood. So what we did then was to document these voices and amplify the voices from this community. And then we got the then Minister of Environment, Amina Mohammed, to insert a budget line under the Ministry of Environment of over 250 million naira. This budget passed through the National Assembly and it was defended by her ministry and was signed by Mr. President. What we now did was to ensure that we put a lot of pressure on her ministry to release these funds and ensure these funds was judiciously used in Shikira community. And 6 months down the line, the funds were released. And as I speak to you now, Shikira has been remediated. That's environmental cleanup has happened. They're now installing 2 solar-powered boreholes in this community. And their primary health care center has been rehabilitated and medicines have been provided in support with Doctors Without Borders. They're treating the children. And the last time we got the figures, just less than 30 children are now administered. They're now receiving treatment from lead contamination, which is quite exciting. So that's one phase of how we've been able to document impact on the ground and ensure we'll galvanize citizens to use social media and mainstream media to put so much pressure on government to ensure transparency and accountability. But then,
speaking of transparency and accountability, the Secretary of Government of the Federation was suspended for embezzling the funds meant for internally displaced people. What did Follow the Money, did Follow the Money have any impact on that, number one?
Oh yes. Oh yes, because for us, we document every corrupt case. Though we don't prosecute and we don't take ailing corrupt politicians or public officials to court because, one, we don't have resources to take them to court, and two, we believe there's an opportunity for other civil society actors and other well-meaning Nigerians to take up the case, take them to court and ensure justice is done.
Still on the IDP funds, we hear a lot of humanitarian organizations, especially the international donors, they come to a country like Nigeria where we're suffering one of the highest rates of devastated IDPs, you can say. 70% of the funds they raise, or they claim to have raised, are spent on administrative overhead costs, while only 30% is implemented for the actual project. How does CODE, in partnership with Follow the Money, rectify that kind of situation?
Yes, we've seen situations where a lot of funds that are meant for IDPs go to overheads and just little goes for projects. And again, you can't really measure this impact. As much as we're calling for more accountability at the federal government and state, local government level, there still needs to be that coordination and openness from the international aid organization working in the area of humanitarian crisis. And don't forget that some of these meetings, and particularly in Borno State, you can't even get a hotel to stay in Borno as I speak to you. You have to book months or weeks ahead. We're facilitating a training today, tomorrow and next tomorrow. And before we got that date and the venue, it was something else. And then I wonder, is this a conspiracy to prosper some few individual businesses in Borno State? Or is it really, are we really serious in the fight against insurgents and tackling issues that really affect people?
Why is it that you can't get a hotel? Because it's overbooked?
It's
or
overbooked.
Because they literally,
there's a lot of people in Borno State.
Despite the supposed insurgency going on, people are still visiting. And
yes, and the prices are quite high. The cost of living in Borno State is relatively high. We got a security report that states that the food currently in Borno State can feed the entire country. So what happens is business people take their food to warehouses in the northeast. Humanitarian organization, private philanthropists come and buy these grains and this rice and then give the people at the IDP coupons to take to this warehouse and claim if it's a 2 mudu of rice or 2 mudu of grains. And guess what? The people of the IDP would still take this to the market and sell it. Because again,
the internally displaced person
because,
will take it, not their coordinators,
no.
the people themselves.
So there are different levels of corrupt practices. The people themselves are tired of eating rice and tired of getting grains over and over again. But what they want is give me money so I can go to the market and buy whatever I best fits for me and my family. We met a family who says in the last 6 months they've not tested meat. They could not remember the taste of meat. That's how devastating it is and appalling it is. But then looking at the situation of the Northeast and looking and analyzing all the figures that are coming both from international organizations, from national actors, it's quite appalling, and juxtaposing that with the impact on the ground. And if we don't tackle the corruption around it, we would, in the next 10 years, we'll still keep talking and debating about this issue. But the good thing is the international community is now taking aid, and if time, we would see how aid money is trickled down both from the international donor to the last one. And then when you talk about the fact that we're now in a safe society and where people can actually live freely in the Northeast, but then you need military escort to travel less than 30 kilometers, just 10 kilometers away from Maiduguri. You need military escort.
You do.
And then you say that, you know, you're safe to travel. How is that possible? They still cuff you. Once it's 6 p.m., you can't travel around the Northeast. You have to sleep in some remote village or with the military at the military checkpoint. So I think maybe when we see the governor of Borno State drive himself and travel, you know, without any escort, maybe that would boost confidence. Or where we see the Minister of Information actually travel to the Northeast without any escort and drive from Abuja.
That will definitely boost confidence.
Yes.
Lawal, thank you so much for joining us for today's program. It's been a pleasure. I hope you will exceed when next we call on you. Thank you for having me. It would be a pleasure anytime. I'm just a WhatsApp away. Perfect. That's it for today's episode of the Osasu Show. To join this discussion, you can follow us on social media at the Osasu Show on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Don't forget to subscribe to our website, tostvnetwork.com, to find out more news on sustainable development and current affairs across Africa. Don't forget to also visit my personal website, osasuigbenadian.com, and Osasu Igbenadian on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to hear my personal thoughts on current affairs issues across Africa as well. I'll see you same time, same place next week. And until then, take very good care of yourself. God bless you.